Today is October the 10th. What does it mean to be a faithful servant? In the book of Matthew, Jesus goes on and adds one final parable. Matthew chapter 24, verse 45 to 51. Who then is the faithful and wise slave whom his master has put in charge of his household to give the other slaves their allowance of food at the proper time? Blessed is that slave whom his master will find at work when he arrives. Truly, I tell you, put that one in charge of all of his possessions. But if the wicked slave says to himself, my master is delayed, and begins to beat his fellow slaves and eats and drinks with drunkards, the master of that slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour that he does not know, he'll cut him in pieces, will put him with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, this is really a continuation of the previous paragraph, where he has said his coming is unexpected. He continues to say the coming of the master is unexpected. That's why you have to be at work at all times. That's why you have to be faithful. The faithful servant, I can't help but think that many of the Israelites listening to this story would have thought of Joseph. Joseph was the perfect model of a faithful servant. After his brothers sold him into slavery, he was a slave in the house of Potiphar. There, Potiphar put him in charge of everything, and he was faithful to Potiphar even in his absence, even when Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him. In chapter 40, Potiphar puts him in prison because of the accusations of his wife. In prison, the jail keeper puts Joseph in charge of everything. And even in his absence, Joseph cares for all of the other prisoners. And then, because Joseph has interpreted dreams, when Pharaoh has a dream, one of the servants is reminded that Joseph interpreted his dream. So he tells Pharaoh about Joseph. Joseph then tells Pharaoh the meaning of his dream. Let's pick up that story in Genesis chapter 41, verses 37 to 52.
Genesis 41, verses 37 through 57, New Revised Standard Edition. The proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find anyone else like this, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has shown you all this, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only with regard to the throne will I be greater than you." And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." Removing his signet ring from his hand, Pharaoh put it on Joseph's hand. He arrayed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride in the chariot of his second in command, and they cried out in front of him, "Bow the knee." Thus he set him over all the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no one shall lift up hand or foot in all the land of Egypt." Pharaoh gave Joseph the name Zaphenath-Paneah, and he gave him Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, as his wife. Thus Joseph gained authority over the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 plenteous years, the earth produced abundantly. He gathered up all the food of the 7 years when there was plenty in the land of Egypt, and stored the food up in the cities. He stored up in the city the food from the fields around it. So Joseph stored up grain in such abundance, like the sand of the sea, that he stopped measuring it. It was beyond measure. Before the years of famine came, Joseph had 2 sons, who Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bore to him. Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, "God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house." The second he named Ephraim, for God has made me fruitful in the land of my misfortunes. The 7 years of plenty that prevailed in the land of Egypt came to an end. and the 7 years of famine began to come, just as Joseph has said. There was a famine in the country, but throughout the land of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph, what he says to you, do." And since the famine had spread all over the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the world came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain, because the famine became severe throughout the world.
Now notice what it said in Genesis 41:46. Joseph went out from Pharaoh. Joseph left Pharaoh and did what he was supposed to do, even though Pharaoh was not there. Joseph was faithful and performed everything that he needed to do. Be faithful, even if your master is not present, even if you think he's delaying. What do we do about this today? Exactly that. We be faithful. Do your job, even when the boss isn't there. Scripture reading from the New Revised Standard Version, Bible Herrera. If you like what you heard today, share it with your friends.